Talk about the anatomy of a loophole. So, how internal affairs sustains a violation to make it disappear. When you file an official complaint against law enforcement, you expect a simple determination, right? Did they violate the law and their policy, or didn't they? But inside the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office, the Office of Professional Standards has mastered a third option. Sustain the violation on paper, but rewrite the narrative to insulate the officers from any real accountability. So I had recently received the final determination letters for internal affairs case, and the department was forced to officially sustain my complaints against 3 supervisors and a deputy for their body-worn camera violations. We had Lieutenant John Brookshire, Corporal Charles Aaron Mills, and Corporal Stephen Hart, along with another, but I haven't got his yet. So on paper, a sustained finding sounds like a win for accountability, but if you look closely at the fine print of how Captain Kim Thompson framed their defense, the department's official excuse is that these supervisors only violated policy because they did not document or verbally narrate the reason that they muted their body cameras to begin with. But let's look past the slick administrative framing and name exactly what these officers did and what they claimed and why a badge shouldn't protect them from being fired and or criminally charged. So, Lieutenant John Brookshire. So, he arrived on scene with a 13-minute activation delay to my son's apartment, later cut his camera during a discussion about females, and then deliberately muted his microphone. His excuse, he muted it several times at my house. His excuse, he claimed he deactivates his camera to coordinate tactics and protect the integrity of the scene. Interesting. Why he should be fired and charged? Why do I feel that way? Because coordinating tactics is an administration fiction. There's no policy exception that allows a supervisor to create an active blackout zone mid-operation to hide how police decisions are being made. Intentionally killing an active video feed to conceal police conduct is a flagrant violation of oath of office and tampering with public records. So anyway, then we have Corporal Charles Aaron Mills, who physically removed his body camera entirely multiple times, leaving it inside his patrol car while continuing to operate on scene, once for roughly 20 minutes at my house and then another for 15 minutes at my son's apartment. He muted it several times. He placed it face down in his seat. His excuse? He claimed that he deactivated it when speaking to a judge and disconnected it to communicate with others to get them up to speed. Why do I think he should be fired and charged? Well, in my opinion, removing state-issued evidence gathering equipment and hiding it face down isn't a technical error. It is a deliberate physical act to suppress evidence. Operating completely off the record during the citizens' interaction strips the public of their constitutional protections, and it constitutes intentional evidence tampering. That's what it is. Intentionally killing an active video feed to conceal police conduct is a violation of oath of office and tampering with public. Next, we have Corporal Stephen Hart, who deliberately muted his microphone while on scene to engage in a private, according to him, unrecorded huddle with Lieutenant Brookshire. His excuse, he openly admitted that he muted his camera specifically to have a private conversation about the events that had just occurred at my home. And if you ask me why he should be fired and charged, well, body camera exists precisely to record what officers say and do on a scene. Conspiring to mute audio so that a supervisor and a corporal can align their narratives or speak privately without an audit trail, that completely destroys the integrity of the state's evidence. Now let's talk about the illusion of the exception. Cherokee Sheriff's Office Policy 040110 dictates that once a camera is on, it must remain activated until the absolute conclusion of the event. The policy allows an officer to mute the feed under extremely rare, narrow exceptions, such as a privileged conversation with a spouse, a doctor, or an attorney. The policy states that if an exception applies, then the officer must verbally state it before muting. By claiming these men simply forgot to narrate their reasons, Internal Affairs is pretending that a valid exception existed in the first place, and it did not. Do you hear me? It didn't. Then we have the ghost disciplinary record, because they minimized an intentional act of suppressing evidence into a simple clerical error of forgetting to speak into the mic. The department gave themselves a free pass, bypassing any real discipline. So when I submitted a follow-up open record request demanding the written disciplinary actions that were taken against these officers and or 3 supervisors, the Open Records clerk officially responded that the discipline was handled by the division commander and that no written records exist. So you're telling me an internationally accredited law enforcement agency is claiming that high-ranking supervisors can intentionally mute their microphones and hide their cameras during a major constitutional rights dispute, and the subsequent punishment is what? An undocumented conversation behind closed doors? By ensuring that no paperwork ever entered their permanent personnel files, I would suspect, the department successfully used statutory loopholes to tell the public that, guess what? We didn't write it down, so you aren't allowed to see it. Sustaining a complaint means absolutely nothing if the department uses a hyper-technical reading of their own rules to hand out invisible slaps on the rest of these officers. If a private citizen were to mute, hide, or alter any evidence in a criminal matter, they would face felony tampering charges. But when a badge does it at this department, it's handled over a quiet cup of coffee, or maybe a beer if you ask Mills. Accountability shouldn't be an administrative shell game. The pub deserves transparency and accountability, the same that would be handed down to the rest of us.